After age 70, throw away these 5 things for a peaceful and happy life. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. What is it that weighs you down? What is it that keeps you tethered to a past that no longer serves you? Because make no mistake, there are burdens you carry, some visible, some hidden, that are preventing you from living with the clarity, peace, and dignity that you deserve in the final decades of your life. And so, let me tell you this. After age 70, it is time to throw some things away. Not just the physical clutter, the old books you'll never read again, the clothes that don't fit, the dusty trophies from victories long past, but also the mental baggage, the emotional anchors that keep you from sailing freely into the years ahead. Here are 5 things you must discard if you truly seek a peaceful and happy life after 70. From a young age, people are conditioned to seek approval. It starts in childhood, where acceptance from parents, teachers, and peers shapes behavior. As the years pass, the need for validation becomes deeply ingrained. Many spend their lives adjusting their words, actions, and even values to fit the expectations of others. They suppress their true thoughts to avoid conflict, sacrifice their own comfort to keep the peace, and say yes when they desperately want to say no. But after the age of 70, this habit is no longer just unnecessary, it is a burden. At this stage in life, the truth becomes undeniable. No matter how much effort you put into pleasing others, someone will always disapprove. People will judge, they will misunderstand, and they will project their own insecurities onto you. Trying to mold yourself to every expectation is like chasing the horizon. The need to be liked by everyone is not a virtue, it is a chain that restricts freedom. Letting go of this compulsion does not mean becoming indifferent or unkind. It means recognizing that your time and energy are limited and spending them wisely. It means speaking your mind without fear, setting boundaries without guilt, and making decisions based on what truly matters to you rather than what others expect. It is an act of self-respect to choose authenticity over approval. There will be resistance. Some will not like the change. Those who have benefited from your constant accommodation may react with disappointment or even anger, but that is their burden to carry, not yours. A lifetime of people-pleasing does not mean you owe anyone continued compliance. It is not your job to manage the emotions of others at the expense of your own peace. What happens when you finally release this weight? A newfound clarity emerges. Conversations become more honest. Relationships, though fewer, become richer. There is no longer a need for pretense or performance. Life, stripped of unnecessary obligations, becomes lighter. The friendships and connections that remain are based on mutual respect, not silent resentment. At 70 and beyond, the most valuable currency is time. Every moment spent trying to appease someone else is a moment lost from living fully. The years ahead should not be governed by the expectations of others, but by the freedom to be exactly who you are, without apology. Regret is a heavy chain, dragging the past into the present and preventing any real sense of peace. By the time a person reaches 70, they have accumulated decades of experiences, some filled with joy and success, others marked by failure, disappointment, and loss. It is natural to look back and see moments where different choices could have led to better outcomes. Perhaps there were words left unsaid, relationships that ended badly, or opportunities missed. But to dwell on these regrets is to fight a battle that can never be won. The past is fixed, unchangeable, beyond reach. The only thing left is how it is understood and carried forward. Many people hold on to regret as if it serves a purpose, as if replaying past mistakes might somehow undo them. But this is an illusion. Regret does not correct the past, it only poisons the present. It turns memories into burdens instead of lessons, trapping a person in an endless loop of self-recrimination. The truth is, no one moves through life without making errors. To expect a life free of missteps is to expect something unnatural, something impossible. A far more productive approach is to extract wisdom from those mistakes and apply it to the present. What truly matters is not what went wrong years ago, but what can be done with the time that remains. Every day is an opportunity to act differently, to express love where it was once withheld, to practice gratitude instead of regret, to focus on the life ahead rather than the life behind. Regret should not be an anchor, it should be a teacher. Forgiving oneself is essential. people are often far harsher on themselves than they would be on others. Imagine a close friend burdened with regret. Would the response be judgment or compassion? If kindness is extended to others, why should it not be extended inward as well? Carrying regret indefinitely is not a sign of responsibility. It is a refusal to accept reality. True responsibility lies in acknowledging the past, making peace with it, and choosing to live well now. The weight of regret diminishes when the focus shifts to the present. There is still time to create meaning, to mend what can be mended, and to build a life unburdened by what cannot be changed. The past is a story already written, but the final chapters are still in the hands of the one who lives them. Relationships shape a person's life, for better or worse. Over the years, bonds are formed with family, friends, colleagues, and acquaintances. Some of these relationships provide warmth, support, and encouragement, while others drain energy, create stress, and bring nothing but negativity. By the time a person reaches 70, it becomes clear which connections uplift and which only weigh down. There is no longer any reason to maintain relationships that cause more harm than good. Toxic relationships can take many forms. Some people manipulate through guilt, making others feel responsible for their happiness. Others criticize constantly, diminishing confidence and instilling self-doubt. Some remain present only when they need something, disappearing the moment their needs are met. There are those who thrive on conflict, who refuse to let go of old resentments, who see kindness as weakness and take advantage of it. These relationships, even if they have been tolerated for years, serve no purpose other than to create unnecessary suffering. One of the biggest reasons people hold on to toxic relationships is obligation. A friend from decades ago, a relative, a longtime acquaintance. People assume that history alone is enough reason to keep someone in their life. But history does not justify misery. Just because a relationship has lasted a long time does not mean it should last forever. If a person's presence brings nothing but stress, anger, or exhaustion, then their absence is a gift. Letting go is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of self-respect. Walking away from toxic people does not mean wishing them harm or holding on to resentment. It simply means choosing peace over unnecessary turmoil. It means recognizing that life is too short to spend time with those who bring nothing but negativity. It is not selfish to prioritize mental and emotional well-being. In fact, it is necessary. When toxic relationships are removed, space opens for something better. Deeper connections with those who truly matter, moments of solitude that bring peace rather than loneliness, a sense of freedom that only comes from no longer walking on eggshells. True friendships, the ones worth keeping, are built on mutual respect, kindness, and understanding. These are the relationships that deserve time and effort, not the ones that drain and diminish. At this stage in life, every moment is valuable. There is no longer any reason to waste time on people who do not bring light, joy, or sincerity. Letting go of toxic relationships is not a loss. It is a necessary step toward a life that is lighter, freer, and far more fulfilling. Death is the great inevitability, the one certainty that every person must face. Yet many spend their lives avoiding the thought of it, pretending it is far away, something to be dealt with later. But after 70, later is no longer an abstract concept, it is closer than ever. Fear of death becomes a shadow that lingers, robbing the present of its richness. Instead of living, people find themselves consumed by worry, dreading what is to come instead of embracing what remains. This fear does not prevent death, it only prevents life. There is a tendency to see death as an enemy, something to fight against at all costs. Medicine, technology, and modern comforts have created the illusion that life can be extended indefinitely. But resisting death does not make it go away. It only makes the thought of it more terrifying. The fear stems not from the event itself, but from the uncertainty of what follows. Is there something beyond? Is there nothing at all? These questions have no definitive answers, yet they hold immense power over the mind. People waste precious time fearing the unknown, rather than appreciating the certainty of the present moment. The alternative to fear is acceptance. Many ancient philosophies, from Stoicism to Buddhism, teach that remembering death is not morbid, it is liberating. The awareness of mortality is a tool, a reminder to live well while there is still time. When a person stops fearing death, they start valuing each moment differently. Time spent with loved ones becomes more precious, simple pleasures become more meaningful, and trivial worries lose their grip. The need to impress, to accumulate, to chase external validation fades, replaced by a deeper appreciation for what truly matters. Regret often feeds the fear of death. People look back and see unfinished business, words left unspoken, dreams left unfulfilled. But instead of letting this fear paralyze them, they can use it as motivation. There is still time to make amends, to express love, to experience joy. Death is not just an end. It is a deadline, one that should inspire action, not avoidance. A life lived in fear of death is a life half-lived. Letting go of this fear does not mean ignoring reality, it means embracing it fully. The goal should not be to avoid death, but to meet it without regret, knowing that every moment before it was lived with purpose, gratitude, and a sense of peace. One of the most damaging beliefs a person can hold is the idea that change is no longer possible. By the time someone reaches 70, they may feel that their habits, perspectives, and routines are fixed, that who they are now is who they will always be. This belief is not just limiting, it is false. Growth does not stop simply because time has passed. The mind, the heart, and the spirit remain capable of transformation no matter how many years have been lived. The moment a person decides that it is too late to change, they surrender to stagnation, closing themselves off from new experiences, insights, and possibilities. Age does not determine the ability to learn. Throughout history, people have reinvented themselves in their later years, discovering new passions, developing new skills, even pursuing new careers or relationships. The brain remains adaptable, capable of forming new connections or absorbing new information. The body, even with its limitations, can still be strengthened. The heart, despite its scars, can still open itself to joy, love, and connection. The idea that certain doors are closed simply because of age is a self-imposed prison, not a truth of reality. People often resist change because it is uncomfortable. There is security in routine, in familiarity, even if those patterns are not fulfilling. But comfort is not the same as happiness. A person may find themselves stuck in patterns that no longer serve them, habits that drain energy, relationships that no longer bring joy, a mindset that keeps them tethered to outdated fears and insecurities. Recognizing that change is possible means taking responsibility for how the remaining years are lived. It means refusing to settle for merely existing when there is still the potential to thrive. The question is not whether change is possible. It is whether the desire exists. There is no rule that says a person must stop learning, creating, or evolving after a certain age. Those who embrace change find that life remains vibrant, full of discovery and excitement. They reject the notion that their best years are behind them, and instead focus on making the most of what lies ahead. Aging is inevitable, but stagnation is a choice. The final chapters of life are still unwritten, and they can be shaped by curiosity, resilience, and the willingness to grow. There is always time to change, to improve, and to redefine what it means to truly live. Life is not just measured in years, but in the weight a person carries. After 70, it becomes clear that the heaviest burdens are not physical, but mental and emotional. The expectations of others, the regrets of the past, the presence of toxic people, the fear of what is to come, and the belief that nothing can change. These burdens accumulate over a lifetime, but they do not have to be carried forever. Letting go of them is not an act of loss, it is an act of liberation. When unnecessary weight is removed, everything becomes lighter. Conversations are no longer filled with the need for approval, but with honesty. Relationships are no longer endured out of obligation, but cherished for their genuine value. Time is no longer spent in regret over what cannot be changed, but in appreciation for what still remains. The future is no longer feared, but embraced as an opportunity to live well. These are not small shifts, they are transformative. They create a life that is not just endured, but fully experienced. Letting go does not mean forgetting or rejecting the past. The past is a teacher, full of lessons, memories, and moments of joy. But it is not a place to remain stuck. The future, no matter how limited, is still an open door. A person who believes they are too old to change has already surrendered to decline. But a person who understands that every day is a new opportunity has chosen to continue living with purpose. There is a peace that comes with accepting what cannot be controlled and taking charge of what can. No one can control how much time remains, but they can control how they spend it. No one can undo past mistakes, but they can decide to stop carrying the weight of regret. No one can force others to change, but they can choose who deserves their energy. No one can stop death, but they can live in a way that leaves nothing unfinished. The final years of life should not be about waiting for the end. They should be about living fully, freely, and without unnecessary burdens. It is not too late to release what no longer serves, to embrace what truly matters, and to walk forward with a lighter heart. The question is not how much time is left, but how that time